Well, a very good morning to you all from trackside at Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. This is the North American Formula 1000 Championship presented by EPCUSA.com on DriversEye Live. Thanks, everybody, for your company this morning. My name is Brendan Kazmarek, joined this morning by JT Tammy. Good morning, JT.
Good morning, Brendan.
Something of sports car specialists ourselves, but as was the case yesterday for Free Practice 2, DriversEye Live plays host to open wheel racing in this the North American Formula 1000 Championship rounds 9 and 10 from Road America. JT, we'll start with a little chat about Road America itself as the cars head out for qualifying 1. That'll be for round 9 to come later this afternoon. Something of a haven for open wheel cars. This is just about all flat out all the time.
Yeah, it's a very great, very fast track. Definitely well suited for these small open wheel cars where you can carry a lot of speed through these corners.
Yeah, long straightaways mean good slipstreaming opportunities, short braking zones, create some passing opportunities, and a lot of speed, like you mentioned, JT, carried through the apex of these corners, which really rewards the committed and those who have got the setup on these cars exactly right. But that slipstream means when we get to race 9 and race 10 of the championship later on today and tomorrow afternoon, that we should see some really awesome racing. But as old Bob Varsha says, before you can race, you must qualify. And that's exactly what we are headed out to do now. 25 minutes on track around the 4.048 mile Road America. If you joined us for Free Practice 2 yesterday, you will have noticed the fastest time ended up being set by Nathan Bird in the number 39 Arrive Drive Motorsports JDR. Alex Mayer is here, of course, our, I believe, triple reigning F1000 champion, and usually takes home at least a race win a weekend, occasionally the double, but did not participate in Free Practice 2 yesterday. I was under the impression that was because they were just saving tires. Then I heard a rumor he had hit a rogue side pod, and that was incorrect. Because it was followed up with the news that he had managed to hit the wall in front of the bridge at turn 9. That big Speedville shot we saw at the beginning of the broadcast? Yeah, that one. Apparently dropped a wheel off on the exit of turn 8 and sheared a bolt in the right rear suspension and sent him careening off to driver's right and into the concrete barrier at the base of the bridge there. Alex was okay. The right front corner of the car less so. It was repaired last night in time. New nose cone, new right front suspension, and all is well. Alex Mayer will be back on track for the number 77 JDR to try and contend for pole. He had set a 206 yesterday morning in practice. Nathan Bird yesterday was into the 209s. Steve Hamilton also into the 209s. Although both of those laps were with a slipstream. JT, as I'm sure you might imagine, I was told that in the 1600s, a slipstream is worth about 2.5 seconds. In the 1000s, probably around a second to a second and a half, which means even during qualifying, you're going to want to try and find somebody to follow.
Yeah, and it's great because that can give you a good advantage time-wise, but you also run the risk of trailing behind somebody making a mistake, and that can cost you time through the corners. So it's going to definitely be a gamble trying to get that extra time without sacrificing time to your competitors.
Yeah, and it's interesting. When I spoke to Alex Mayer yesterday during the random prize drawing and giveaway, which so many of our sponsors of the North American Formula 1000 Championship support and provide for, our discussion was about finding a car to follow. You would have thought, okay, we'll go find a Formula 1000. They'll kind of tow me down the streets. But actually, Alex's plan was to go find an Atlantic to get behind. Which, if you think about it, kind of makes some sense, right? Those Formula Atlantics are a little bit quicker on overall pace. They've got more power, so they're quicker down the straightaway, which means they'll help pull you along without holding you up through the mid-corner, which I think is awfully smart. So we were due to have an onboard with Alex this morning. It became dormant at some point during the run to the grid, so I'm not sure what the deal is there, but we are on board with Steve Hamilton in the number 93, owner of EPC USA, which presents the North American Formula 1000 Championship. And as we get our tires and cars up to operating temperature, Steve comes through and clicks off a 211.966. Now, like we mentioned earlier, he was into the high 209s yesterday, and with a draft, of course. You will note out the front of this number 93 JDR chassis, there is no car to follow, which means Steve will be doing these times on his own, and probably something like 5 to 8 miles an hour slower down the end of most of these straightaways. Listen to this 13,000 RPMs. 1C Superbike engines putting out the beautiful noise, and about 160 horsepower out of the back of these cars. I can tell you also that in the number 31, John Willamy has a brand new 1000cc Superbike engine in the back of his Furman chassis. John was kind enough to offer us a little broadcast space yesterday while we were getting things squared away here at Road America, and came back in to find he needed a new head gasket. Turns out nobody at Road America has head gaskets for 1000cc Superbike engines, so it was a brand new engine for him. And happy to see, I just saw that car come through pit lane about a minute ago, so happy to see John back out on track. Oh, we're going to stick on this camera until we get a couple of these. Listen to that. There goes Steve Hamilton. That is phenomenal.
Definitely
JT, have you been to Road America before?
I have not.
I will tell you this. I don't know. I don't remember if you joined us for our WRL broadcast here back in May. I don't get spooked at racetracks too often. I've seen a lot of different angles of a lot of different tracks. Ooh, bouncing off the rev limiter there, I think, for Nathan Bird. But this run from the kink through the forest down into Canada Corner is genuinely terrifying. It's so narrow and so fast and never really straightens out till you get right up to the braking zone. But even standing trackside, man, it is so much faster than it looks on camera through here.
Yeah, and I love the echoing that is created, bouncing off the walls there. As these cars are coming into turn 12, Canada Corner, just so quick. Just the sound just vibrates off those barriers, and it reminds me quite a bit of Long Beach, because you get the same thing there.
Yes, and ironically, I mean, this isn't a street circuit, although the layout is vaguely based off of the original street circuit here. The corners are largely 90-degree corners, although each with their own little flair. The entrances to each corner is a little different. The cambers are a little different. The elevations through the braking zones change. I think we got a frozen camera here at turn 5, actually. There we go. Change it up to turn 6. But it's even just at road speed. I know I mentioned this yesterday in qualifying. At road pace in a road car, the corners are they don't really ever have a defined entrance or exit. The edges of the track just constantly move, and the radius is constantly changing. It creates just that, combined with what we were just talking about, the run through the forest and the sound bouncing off the trees and the natural creates what Road America is, which is an iconic North American road racing circuit. And I know we visit a bunch of those tracks in the North American Formula 1000 Championship, but this is certainly a bucket list here. On board with Steve Hamilton into the kink. Do we breathe the throttle? Not a chance. Not a chance. Low fuel in these cars for qualifying. Brand new sticker set of tires as well. Of course, 2 tire sets for each entrant from qualifying 1 onwards through the weekend. They are marked sets. So these will be marked when they come off the car a little later on. I'm here in about 15 minutes, 25-minute session. I can tell you at the moment, in Formula 1000, Steve Hamilton sits on pole. He's up to a 2:10.4, or down to a 2:10.4. I think this lap will be a little slower, just as a result of being stuck up behind a very slow Atlantic. Indeed, it will. 2:11.959 with our camera on a little delay here. Doug Hertz, 2:11.239, about 3/4 of a second behind Steve Hamilton. Riley Harris in third in the number 12, 2:11.936, and then Charles Livingston in the number 33, a 2:14.4. Charles was due to be carrying an onboard camera. Unfortunately, we don't have that just at the moment, as some of our cameras here fight a little bit. I wonder what's going on, actually. Very interesting to me. We'll go to the cameras we do have. There we go. Nathan Bird, the number 39, quickest in free practice 2 yesterday. We'll keep an eye out for him, bringing everything up to temperature. Alex Mayer, we know, is bringing things slowly up to temperature. We'll switch off this camera here. The discussion down in the garage for the number 77 of Alex Mayer was they were planning to take a little pressure out of the tires, have them come up to temp slowly, and then they'd breathe everything sort of back into life once everything's up to temperature and pressures. Back on board with Steve Hamilton, the number 93. Back on the throttle really early at the apex of turn 6 there. JT, in sim racing anyway, I was never particularly good at Road America because I had a tendency to charge braking zones, which would suggest to me that being quick around here, especially over a single lap, is all about getting back to the apex at exactly the right point and getting on the throttle early for the launch down these iconic long straights here.
Yeah, it's the game is to carry that speed, because I mean you're going to be carrying a ton of speed into turn 5, super easy to overshoot, and you'll be slow up the hill into 6. I mean, you can look through most of these key corners through the track where you just need to carry that speed. I mean, from the carousel to the kink, exiting Canada corner, turn 1 and turn 3 especially. You just got to carry that speed because you do have these decently sized straightaways where if you're not able to get that exit with that speed, you're going to be losing time on the straights.
Alex Baer, the number 77, comes through his first representative lap time, and it's a 2:07.788. Did not catch it out the window here, but you see it on live timing over on Race Monitor. Tablet app is available there. And, of course, racemonitor.com. We're trying to get our trackside cameras back here. I have no idea why it's chosen this exact moment for every camera to to begin struggling. There we go. I think we've got one of them back now. We watch one of the Atlantics head up the hill underneath the Corvette bridge. So it's Mayer, Hamilton, and Harris in third. We're still waiting on a representative time from the number 77. I'm sorry, the number 39 of Nathan Bird and of John Willoughby, although I suspect John may just be using this opportunity to break that new engine in rather than trying to push very hard. He'll use this as an installation session, make sure everything is operating as it ought to. And then if he gets a chance at the end, turn up the wick. But for now, no real urgency with that number 31. Nathan Bird comes through last time a 5:13, so he will have just been in the pits. And I do wonder if maybe that has something to do with him bouncing off the rev limiter on the run down to Canada corner. Maybe just taking all the weight out of the car and putting new tires on it has meant that he's carrying considerably more speed down out of the carousel and into the kink, and then through that long straightaway and the run down into the braking zone at turn 12. I'd be interested to find out what the story is there. But in any case, he is back out on track, and now he's got to go try and set a time in the dying 10 minutes of qualifying one here this weekend.
It was interesting watching Steve Hamilton. Last lap is 2:09, fastest so far. So he's looking pretty good in second right now.
Yeah, Steve, I'm actually really impressed with Steve as number 12, Riley Harris, comes into the pit lane in front of me. Steve has, he started coming on pretty strong at Barber, actually. He found really good pace in qualifying, and I'm actually really pleased to see he's been able to step that up here this morning. Like you mentioned, to 2:09 flat, that's even 6 or 7 tenths quicker than he went in free practice 2 yesterday. Riley Harris at 2:11.1, I think is quicker than he went yesterday as well, so he's found a little bit of pace in qualifying, but it's a short gap from Harris back to Doug Hertz in fourth. 1/10 of a second separating the two of those cars, the number 12 and the 13, who also comes into the pits in front of me here. So manufacturer-wise, we go JDR, Van Diemen, and Furman. Charles Livingston, the number 33 JDR. So I think we got our cameras back there now, just in time. So thanks to Tanner for all his work behind the scenes in production, getting us back up to speed. Nathan Bird is the one we're going to be watching, though, if we can find him out on track. The red and white number 39 Arrive Drive Motorsports car. Keep an eye out and see if we can't pick him up and catch him on a flyer before the end of the session here. About 9 minutes left. He has actually just come across start-finish. So if our turn 1 camera's up, we should be able to pick him up there. Otherwise, it'll be down here at the bottom of the hill at turn 3.
Yeah, Bird's a P3 with a 2:10.1.
Mayer improves P1 at 2:06.9. Now, I wouldn't expect to see Bird into the 6s and 7s here, but I believe he could pull off an 8, especially if he manages to find a slipstream. There is Bird, actually, through the turn 3 camera. Back on the throttle super early. Listen to that. So good. When I met with Dustin Hodges, promoter of the North American Formula 1000 Championship, asked about some camera placement this weekend. He said, yeah, maybe somewhere, full throttle, which I had no issues obliging to. Just hearing these 13,000 RPM, 1,000 cc engines is a real joy, especially compared to the Atlantics. This is not the same at all. Looks like we've lost our turn 6 and 7 camera as well, which is a little unfortunate, but picking back up here on the entry to the carousel. 93 is Steve Hamilton is into the pit lane. So that'll be his session done and dusted, I think. Currently P2, but we know Bird's out there on a couple of flyers here to end the session, so we'll have to keep an eye on live timing here thanks to Race Monitor.
He does look safe from Harris or Hertz, I would say.
Yeah, and Harris and Hertz are both into the pit lane. The interesting thing to me will be whether or not that 39 can find a slipstream. Now, I don't want to say wasted, but he spent a good portion. Here he comes. Still bouncing off the limiter. And I'll tell you what, JT, this camera is early on in the straightaway. You could see the end of the safer barrier about a third of the way to the left of the screen. And then it's the double left sweeper through into the braking zone. This is between those two sweepers. So he's got a good probably 400 yards, 500 yards of straightaway left to go before he jumps on the brakes. And he just ceases to accelerate by the time he bounces off the limiter there. So that'll be costing him time. And without a slipstreaming partner for the rest of the straightaways, I don't know if he's actually going to be able to catch the 93 of Steve Hamilton.
Yeah, his last lap was a 2:10.4, so about 3/10 off from his previous lap.
Yeah. Now, I actually had an interesting, I was able to sort of overhear the discussion between Dustin Hodges, who crews and does some data engineering on the number 39, and Nathan himself. And they were talking about gearing changes. Now, in practice, on an old set of tires, especially where your top speed is on the entry to Canada Corner. Oh, nice. Thanks for that, Tanner. It means that your acceleration point is the exit of the carousel. Now, on old tires, you won't be carrying that sort of speed through the apex, and your speed at the end of the straightaway in the run into turn 12 is going to be considerably lower. Now, you stick a pair of stickers on there, a set of stickers on the car, your apex speed is that much higher at the carousel. Your throttle, the point at which you come back onto the throttle is a lot sooner, and your minimum speed overall is lower, which means you're hitting VMAX, either for gearing or for your aero setup, way earlier down that straightaway. And I suspect that if they haven't adjusted the gearing for the fresh set of tires, that will probably explain why all of a sudden that car is hitting the rev limiter that much earlier on the run into Canada Corner. Mayer into the pit lane, so that'll be his qualifying session done and dusted. 2.1 seconds is the margin to Hamilton, and like I said, and like we said actually, JT made the same point, Bird is going to have to improve and beat Hamilton to get into P2, but at the moment it doesn't look like that's even an option, never mind getting up to the 77 of Alex Mayer. Wait to pick up that red and white number 39 Arrive Drive Motorsports JDR chassis.
Looks like Hamilton might be back out on track.
Okay, they may have sent it back out, actually. Willamy has started to set a, not a representative time, but a 2:24 flat, so he's still out there breaking in that new engine. I can tell you that behind the top three that we've been focusing on, Mayer, Hamilton, and Bird, Harris, Hertz, and Livingston are all within about a half a second for 4th, 5th, and 6th. So the number 12 has only got that 10th in hand over Doug Hertz in the number 13, but Charles Livingston in the number 33 is well into the 211s as well, a 211.795. I assume he'll have found a drafting partner. He was not at all confident in his ability to set quick times around here, but he's stationary in the pit lane here in 6th place, but like we said, very much within shouting distance of the number 13 of Doug Hertz. Now with only about 4 minutes left in the session, car pulled off to driver's left, headed up the hill at a turn 5. And I believe that's one of the Formula Atlantics. The session has gone checkered. A couple of minutes early, I think. This was due to be a 25-minute session. Though perhaps the schedule is accounting for accounting for our recovery time at the end of the session before we go green for lunch, he says, looking at the schedule. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense why they would have checkered this early, but nevertheless, that Formula Atlantic pulled off to the left on the exit of turn 5. Everybody will be allowed to finish their laps, but if Bird isn't going to do it now, it's just not going to happen. See there, Bird isn't anywhere near the limiter. So I don't know if he wasn't... I can't imagine he wasn't grabbing 6th gear.
Improvement from Hertz.
Yeah, and up into P4. So he's gone from being 1/10 of a second behind Riley Harris to now being 3.5 tenths up. It's a good lap from Doug Hertz. Really good lap from Doug Hertz. And I suspect, not that he's not capable of doing a 2:10.7 on his own, but I suspect there's probably a slipstream involved there. And if he's come out at the right time, found himself that will have been him, actually. It's just gone over the hill at turn 2 and 3. There goes Bird, and Bird's not done any better. 2:11.2. I suspect that slipstream will have helped Doug Hertz and gotten him up into P4. So with the checkered flag out on qualifying 1 for round 9 of the 2021 North American Formula 1000 Championship presented by EPCUSA.com, the pole position goes to Alex Mayer in the number 77 JDR. Steve Hamilton is going to wrap up his session in P2. Number 93 JDR, 209.096, 2.1 seconds behind that 77 of Mayer. Now that doesn't mean a lot because, like we mentioned, the slipstream is king here at Road America. If he can get and stay tucked up behind him at the beginning of a race, to come this afternoon on DriversEye Live, or for that matter, if Nathan Bird can get a good jump and stay within the slipstream of the 77 of Mayer, then we've very much got a race this afternoon. Same goes for Doug Hertz, Harris, and Livingston, who I think are going to put on a cracking battle when we get to the green flag this afternoon. John Willamy, for that matter, who I had a long chat with yesterday, very much still learning these Formula 1000 cars, very much coming to grips with Road America as well, his first time here, also breaking in a new engine. So we'll see what that means for John, but I'm sure that, like we said, if he stays within that slipstream range of the 4 cars in front of him, he could play a major part in that battle as well. And of course, if anything happens, there's very much a podium to play for at the end of our 30. It'll probably be a 30-minute race for the Atlantics in the Formula 1000s to come this afternoon on DriversEye Live. It's 3. Oh my!
The kink.
Yeah,
the kink.
That's an engine. He's not hit anything, correct, JT? He'll have just pulled off with smoke billowing out the back of that car. Who is that?
Pulled off to drivers right there.
Now,
please let it not be Willamy. Please let it not be Willamy.
So, in the proportions of that car make it look like an F1000. With the raised nose, the sharper lines on that car, and the much wider side pod.
Yeah, Tanner called that like quite early.
Yeah, well, imagine that. Brendan's not looking at the produced feed. Weird, that. I don't know. There is also a Formula Atlantic shaped like a Star Mazda because it's a Star Mazda chassis. Painted like a Braun. It could also, so it sort of bears that same shape. The 13 is in, that's Doug Hertz, so we know it's not Doug Hertz. I'm hopeful that that's not the white number 77 of Alex Mayer, although they won't have stopped in the pit lane here, so he may already have gone back to the paddock. We'll stick with this here because I'd like to know who this is. If it means we're going to have one fewer starter this afternoon.
I'm pretty confident in saying that is a Formula car of some sort.
Oh, that's a good call, JT. I wouldn't have thought to make that call, but you've done well to pick that up.
Definitely a stick in my neck out here.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking a chance on that one. Now, unfortunately, we don't have access to our normal timing partners this weekend, which means we don't get sort of the salmon color on Race Hero whenever cars are stranded out on track. Now that I think about it in qualifying, I'm not sure that's how that works anyway. Anyway, we'll wrap this up here. It's going to be a minute until that car gets. I assume they're going to have to put it on a flatbed, especially if it's been dumping oil. We'll put this to one side and set up for this afternoon. 3:55 p.m. is roll off. We'll be live with a grid walk around 3:45 to 3:50 on the DriversEye Live YouTube, as well as the North American Formula 1000 Championship Facebook page, the DriversEye Live Facebook page, and Right Turn Racing TV, if you don't already follow them. Special thanks to Kavana Rum, Right Turn Racing TV, EPCUSA.com, Papa John's Pizza, and all the sponsors and supporters of the North American Formula 1000 Championship that were a part of our giveaway last night. Do a great job in bringing this series to the drivers and the teams, and we help bring it to the supporters and the followers as well. So that in mind, feel free to follow along with our Formula 1600s and F2000 onboards this afternoon as well. You'll see those come up on YouTube a little bit later. And, of course, streaming on Facebook with Ex-Camichas and Global Racing Team and their pair of drivers over there. And, of course, join us live at about 3:45 Central, 4:45 Eastern for round number 9 of the 2021 North American Formula 1000 Championship presented by EPC USA. For myself, Brendan Kazmarek, JT Tammy, Tanner Johnson up in production. Thanks for joining us for qualifying. We'll see you this afternoon for round 9 of the Formula 1000 Championship. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you in a few hours.